Hello and welcome to the Wealth Wednesday show. We are super excited to have you join us today. We are going to discuss on long-term caregiving, and today we are so honored to have a special guest with us. Her name is Cathy Sikorski. She will be taking us through her profile shortly and tell us more on what she does. However, we'd like to encourage you to keep on subscribing to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and most importantly, share this live video with your network, friends, and family, because we are going to touch on one of the most overlooked topic, which is long-term care giving in a financial aspect of it. Kathy is an elder law attorney who has been practicing for over 30 years. So she brings to us a vast knowledge on this subject matter. So without taking much time, Kathy, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello and good morning for me. And I know it's good evening for Sheila, but I am so excited to be here. I have, yes, been an elder attorney for 30 years. I haven't been an elder attorney for that many years because it actually hasn't been around all that long. Long-term care has really expanded over time. But the interesting thing about this is it's because we're living longer, right? I myself have been a caregiver for 8 different family members and friends over that period of time, not as my job, but just for families and friends, because we all know that generally the burden of caregiving falls onto women. There are many wonderful men who are caregivers, but mostly this is a woman's plight. And what I'm finding is over these years that women don't look at the financial side or the legal side in advance. And we need to be having these conversations so that we can be prepared, both to take care of someone and for our own future.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that you've touched base that most of the time this caregiving aspect falls, or the burden falls on women, because naturally women like to take care of others. That's just natural. But at the same time, we need to check on the financial aspect of it, because we find that many women tend to be carried away in the bubble of caregiving, forgetting themselves. Maybe you could start by describing to us what caregiving means.
That is such a great It sounds like a simple question, doesn't it? But it's a really
Yeah.
good and important question, because one of the things that caregivers don't do is identify themselves as caregivers. So caregiving really simply means that you are taking time out of your normal day to help someone where you probably wouldn't do so under regular or normal circumstances. And it could be a spouse, a parent, a child that requires more than what we would say the normal day requires, because someone is ill or someone has health issues, whether they be mental or physical health issues, that require you to step out of your day and do some things for them, right? So many a parent, many a child, many an adult child don't think they're caregivers because they're thinking, oh, I'm just grocery shopping for my mother, or I'm just picking some things up for her at the pharmacy, or I'm just taking her to the doctor like I do, every month. But these are caregiving issues because they take time and effort and they take space out of your day.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you, because most of the time when you mention caregiving, people think it's just refined or confined to a certain task that you do, maybe to an elderly person, and most of the time is to be associated with the medical side of it. But even financially, when you are buying for them certain types of food, certain types of medicine, you are doing caregiving. And you mentioned something, Kathy, that we are not yet prepared for long-term care, and unfortunately or fortunately, people are now living longer.
Yes.
You find people who
Yes.
are 80 years, 90, 70. So that tells you that more people are living longer. Now,
Yes.
why do you think we are unprepared for long-term care?
Well, we are unprepared legally. Let me start there. And I know that, we may be talking to people all over the world, which is very exciting and interesting to me. And every every world and every even state in the United States where I live has a different way of dealing with this legally. But people don't understand, especially here where I live, that if you don't have your legal documents in order to help someone that you love, you may in fact be stymied from being able to help them with legal paperwork, with financial issues, because you need to have the authority in place to take care of them. Okay. So for us, that means powers of attorney. People have to have a power of attorney while someone is alive and sick to take care of their affairs. And this may be true all over the world, but it may not be true. Maybe if you're a spouse, you already have the authority. But I can tell you, people are often shocked and surprised that in the United States, that is not true. Just by virtue of being a spouse doesn't mean you have the authority or access to your spouse's legal affairs. That's a scary thought. And that can be fixed very quickly with some paperwork. So if you're married, do it now. Get those powers of attorney in place, right? So there's the legal piece that's easy to fix and that people don't think about and don't do because they think, oh, it won't happen to me, or they don't really understand that they need that piece. Then there's the financial piece. If you start to be a caregiver for your mom or your dad or your sibling or your spouse, do you have to stop working? Is that going to take away from your income? Is that going to take away from your retirement funds? Are you going to have to dip into your own savings for that money? That's a scary thought. And so if you see that coming down the pike, like you have an elderly or a sick parent, are you prepared for that?
Yeah, and I like this, something you touched, that is power of attorney, especially for couples. You find that, and it cuts across every continent, actually. It's not just in the United States. And you find that many couples don't think of that, especially in a marriage context, that they need to have a power of attorney. They think like, okay, we are married, so that's okay. I can access the legal side of it, which is something that doesn't happen. Maybe you could touch base a little more, when and where is the power of attorney required, so that if someone is married and they're like, okay, so I need to get a power of attorney for what? Maybe you could just give us insights.
That's a wonderful question. Thank you so much for that. First of all, there's two kinds of powers of attorney. There's the kind for financial affairs and for healthcare affairs, right? So those are two completely different things that you will be doing if you're taking care of someone. And so the power of attorney is a document. Here's the 30-second definition of a power of attorney. It's a document that you sign, giving the authority to somebody else, including your spouse, to act as if they are you in every capacity. So it's a very powerful tool. It has a lot of authority behind it. So you have to choose wisely. Obviously, you're choosing your spouse, easy peasy. But if your mother's signing one, or if your father's signing one and they're choosing you or someone else, they need to know that that's a person who can handle financial affairs, a person who will willingly take on handling healthcare issues, because this document then gives them the authority to act as if they are you, to put themselves in shoes and say, sell my car, I can get a credit card, I can pay bills as savings in an account that your name is not on. You have no access to that money. And you may very well need that money to take care of him or yourself, to pay your bills. So with the power of attorney, you have access because you're acting as if you are him, right? He's given you all the authority. If you don't have that document, and he is incapable now of signing documents because he had a stroke, he's incompetent, he can't sign anything, you are now without the authority to get access to that financial stuff, or even to make healthcare decisions for someone. So that's where these tools are so important, and you should have them now. Quite frankly, everyone should have them if you're an adult. When my kids went to college, I made them sign powers of attorney, because if anything happened to them, and none of us is Teflon. Bad things happen to young people too, right?
Yeah, true.
And especially, have we not learned with a pandemic that people can get unexpectedly sick for a long period of time? And I'd like to say, Sheila, this is not about dead people. People get that very confused, dead people and live people. I know that sounds crazy, right? But when people tell me I'm an executor for my mom or I'm an executor on my husband's will, that's wonderful. That's if they die. That is not if they are sick.
For my mom, I'm an executor on my husband's will. That's wonderful. That's if they die. That is not if they are.
So that is not if they're sick and can't handle their husband's affairs or their wife's affairs or their parents' affairs. There's a big, big difference between sick and death in legal documents. And people get very confused about that. And so if I could do anything today is make it very clear that powers of attorney are for live people who are sick and can't take care of their affairs, and wills are for people who have died and they are no longer around to take care of any affairs. So if you're an executor, that's only for dead people. If you're a power of attorney, that's only for live people. If somebody dies, that power of attorney dies with them.
Wow, wow. That was quite deep, Kathy. You know, people most of the time they mistake power of attorney and being an executor of a will. So they think like, okay, since I'm in the will, I can do anything before the person dies. And I like the fact that you've highlighted, you know, we live in very unprecedented times whereby you just don't know, someone can get COVID and they're now not able to breathe properly, they're not able to talk, and they need someone to give powers or authority to access their finances for treatment.
Right.
You need someone, you know, to sign up a document, maybe if it's a surgery and the person is incapacitated. So that is something that we all need to have, a power of attorney, not just for the old people, but even the young ones.
Exactly.
And you know, maybe you could mention, how does one get to have a power of attorney? Should they hire a lawyer, or where do you need to go to get one?
I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to always say go to a lawyer, right? Not because I don't think that certain things are easy and can be accomplished in an easy and inexpensive way. However, if you are a married person, if you have assets, if you have a house, a car, some savings, there are very complicated language requirements in powers of attorney about what your person, it's called your agent, you're giving authority to your agent, what they can do. So there's complicated language about what they can do. And of course, you know, lawyers, we like to make things complicated. Unfortunately, that's how it works. And if you don't have the right language, you can have a power of attorney that doesn't work the way you want it to. And so that's why I'm going to say, especially if you have assets, especially if you are married, you should go to an attorney wherever you are and make sure that that document is correct. Now, that being said, if you are in an emergency situation or you see something is coming, we all know that you can download things from the internet. I'm not going to pretend that that's not true. I can't recommend that, but I can say that it's there and available, and you may want to or need to look into that. But these documents are very complex and complicated. Granted, lawyers make things that way, and I'm sorry, I apologize for that. But the reason for that is, and let me explain that to you, is because there's a protection piece here, right? Yes, you're giving your authority away, but we want to make sure that you're giving away everything you want to give away. So you're letting your child have complete access to your money, or maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just wanted them to have limited access to certain accounts. If you're going to start that, then you need to have an attorney who is able to take the complexities of your life and decide with you what you want to do and how to do it. So I'm going to say go to an attorney, of course. I think you're going to get the best that you can get, and you're going to get exactly what you want. You're not going to get that from a piece of paper on the internet. You need to know that. And so I'm never going to recommend that, but I know that some people are going to do it anyway. That's the reason why.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you've really highlighted that we need to have a power of attorney to save ourselves for the anything that can happen, because we cannot guarantee that situations will not come up, either whether you're married or you're just an adult or you are caregiving to someone. Now, when we started, you mentioned something about women and being the ones who the responsibility of caregiving fall onto. Now, why has the way we save money now set up women for a disastrous financial future?
So this is a actually really interesting thing that has happened over time. When
Mm-hmm,
my grandparents were saving money, everything was a
mm-hmm,
joint account, right? They had a joint
mm-hmm,
savings account. They had a joint checking account. They owned their house together. They bought their car together. Their names were together on everything. And so if anything
mm-hmm,
happened to one person, the other person automatically owned all of that.
mm-hmm,
We, especially here in the United
mm-hmm,
States, have started the 401k, IRA, sometimes a debacle, I would say, but other times a great savings mechanism. The
mm-hmm,
key to this is it can only ever be owned by one person. One person. They can
mm-hmm,
never be joint. So if
mm-hmm,
you own investments, whether
mm-hmm,
it's a 401k or IRA, it doesn't matter. But if you own investments that are not joint, and we have
mm-hmm,
started to do that even with spouses, we have investments that are not joint. Your spouse
mm-hmm,
who is taking care of you has no
mm-hmm.
access to that money, right? But
Yeah.
so we talked about that. That's why you need the power of attorney. But the other thing
Mm-hmm,
that has happened is, and rightfully so, is
mm-hmm,
many marriages, many families have decided the working spouse, whoever that is, we're going to save a lot of their money. And the person who
mm-hmm.
is the caregiver, whether it be for children or parents or your spouse's parents, probably has less money in savings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now
Yeah.
we have one spouse who has a ton of money, who's a working spouse, and one spouse who has little or no money technically in her name. And this
Mm-hmm,
often is the woman who has the little or no money and the man who has the lots of money. It's just, especially with
mm-hmm,
baby boomers and Gen Xers, they sort of have,
mm-hmm,
perpetuated this kind of way that we save money. The problem
mm-hmm.
is if the person with all the money gets sick, the places with all the money we're going to take care of him think that's their money, not your
Yeah.
money. And
Mm-hmm.
transferring that
True.
money to you starts to be a problem because you're not always allowed to do that. And so, because we don't save any money for ourselves, women
Mhm.
have become more vulnerable than they ever were in the past.
Absolutely. And I can totally agree with you based on the cases that I tend to handle. You find that um, most women, most of the time, they will not be the one working actively. They may choose to do caregiving for the household. Now, if something happens and the husband becomes incapacitated, you find that the woman is not able to access the money that the husband was saving because there were no legal papers in place, especially like the power of attorney. That's why I
Exactly.
actually want asked you to expound further on that, because this is something that is really becoming another epidemic.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you said how most of the saving systems have been set up. They are kind of becoming disastrous for the financial future of women, which leads me to the next thing that I would want you to share with us is how can we help women prepare for staying financially secure, especially if their spouse has all the investments, or in another reason, maybe the spouse passes away. And this you can also touch base not just on women, even on the kids or the young ones that have come from that consummation.
So this is a complicated question, isn't it? I mean, because we're
Yeah.
talking about even over years of time, women
Hmm.
in a relationship, if they've
Hmm.
devoted themselves to their family, their children,
Hmm.
their mother, their mother-in-law, whatever, taking
Hmm.
care of people, this place of putting assets or money in their name isn't at the forefront. And there's lots of reasons for that. And this is not even a judgment. It might have been the smartest way to save money in a family, is because if your husband is earning a lot of money and he can, and the company is matching those funds, you know, this is the way to save, of course, but the company requires it to be in an account that's only in his name. So what can you do? Couple things you actually can do right now. Number one, look at it. See if in fact that's your situation. If that is your situation, then you've got to start to talk about how you can rectify it. So is there a way to put some assets in your name, right? Whatever it may be, so that you have also a little nest egg in case one of you gets sick, and wherever you live, they start to look at who has assets if somebody gets sick. So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing is you can do, and even if you're a young person, and if you're listening to this and you're thinking it's about your parents, this is about you. So if you're a young person and you're thinking, oh, my mom, you know, needs this or that, we're also talking to you. Start saving money. If you are a working woman, do not put this off. Do not put this aside, and do not ever stop. Even if you are staying at home to take care of your children, keep putting money in those accounts that are yours, those investment accounts in your name, even if it's a little bit, because you know, Sheila, right? Every little bit, the beauty of compound interest counts. Every little bit counts, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you can do is have a conversation. If you have financial advisors, if you're in that place where you actually have a financial advisor, is talk to them about this imbalance between you and your spouse, and what advice they might have to help fix that over time. Is that possible? And how can we do that? And what kinds of opportunities do we have financially to make some changes now to protect me as well as my spouse?
Absolutely. And you know, there's something I would want you to touch on. We've mentioned earlier that we've seen people living longer nowadays than before. So what can one do so that during their sunset years they don't suffer too much? Because you know, we've seen a lot of people when they get in their old age, they cannot work anymore and they become dependent financially on the others or their offspring, which sometimes can be a burden. And sometimes they don't have anyone to depend on, so
Right.
they have to, you know, sometimes they become homeless. So
Right.
what can we do to plan for that, now that that is a crisis that's already happening, but we need to have a strategy to
Yes.
avoid the same crisis coming
Yes.
up in a few years?
So what you are hearing and seeing, and I'm sure you've heard about the Great Resignation and, you know, all of this, that women were forced out of working and even quit working because of the pandemic, et cetera. And so this is a real, we have to shine a light on exactly what you said. Our older years are coming. What have we done to prepare for that? Or what can we do? Or what should we do? Again, I mean, you know, the simple answer is always going to be save more money, but the complicated answer is look at the social network that is there to save you and make sure you're using it appropriately. So for example, here in the United States, we have Social Security, right? When you take your Social Security can have a huge financial impact on you for the rest of your life. So if you take it at 62, which is the youngest age you can take it, you will take a 30% pay cut for the rest of your life. If you wait till your full retirement age, then you'll get whatever that is. If you wait till you're 70, at this rate, you will get an actual 8% raise for every year you wait to take that money. And that's your payment for the rest of your life. So that's a big investment. So that's something you need to know. You know, you need to know and understand as you get older. Social Security, if you're depending on that, there's a way to make that actually more money than you expect. So the Social Security is a real complicated conversation, and it has a lot of impact about what you do and how you do it. And many people do not know that and understand it. So I would like people to really get educated about how that works in your retirement years. And then we also have a lot of social services to help people who maybe are already there and struggling. I mean, people don't know that there's aging and adult services in every state in the United States to help people with economic hardship, right? As well as any kind of financial hardship due to medications, et cetera, et cetera. If you see that coming for your parent, start looking into that. What's available to them? How can we maybe get some services for them without draining their savings? And yeah, you got to save, people. I mean, this is the Financial Wellness Center. That's why Sheila's here. You have to save money. Right?
Oh yeah, we have to save money and multiply it. You usually say save money today so that it can save you tomorrow, because we don't know what will happen tomorrow, but what you have today, don't use all of it just for today. Save something for tomorrow. Now, Kathy, I would love us to continue this discussion, but due to time, I would love us to bring it to an end. You have shared with us on how we can mitigate the long-term caregiving crisis that we are facing right now, and how we can be well prepared to have a good sunset future or sunset years. Now, I know you are an award-winning author and speaker, so maybe you could tell us more if someone would want to get your books or even book you for speaking engagement, or just have a question. How can they reach out to you?
You can reach, my email is my name. So it's Cathy.Sikorski@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me. If you type Cathy Sikorski into Google, you will see all kinds of things, and you can get to my blog. You can find me there. You can find my speaker website. I am very anxious to speak to women's groups, financial wellness, things like that, financial groups, insurance people, about the fact that we all need to come together to help everyone have a better financial life in their retirement years. And in the back, you can see behind my head there. Wait, if I move a little bit more, my books. There's my books.
Yeah, I see your books there.
My latest one is, though, it's my favorite, and it's 12 conversations, and each chapter is a conversation you should be having with your spouse, your mom, your dad, your financial advisor, your doctor, your lawyer, about long-term care issues. So and work. The last chapter is all about work. How do you talk about this at work if you're having caregiving issues? So that's available on Amazon. So if you look me up on Amazon, Cathy Sikorski, all those books will come up. And I would love to speak to you and do webinars, just like Sheila and I have done today, to get people educated about what they need to do to get prepared. Thank you so much for that opportunity, Sheila.
You're most welcome, Kathy. And absolutely, I think we'll need to do another webinar on the 12 hard conversations that we need to have, especially that you've mentioned mom, dad, at work, and your caregiving. Those are some of the hardest conversations that people fear or sometimes don't know how to start them, and they are yet very important in our life. So until then, thank you so much for tuning in. I can see we have Tracy from Zambia. She says, great conversation, learning so much. I'll definitely use this advice. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you in our next episode. Remember to share this video to your friends and your social network so that they can get to learn more about becoming financially healthy. Until then, keep safe and see you.